Good evening. Hello, everyone. I'm Shoayb Peerbocus. So I'm a Agile consultant, coach, and trainer. And today we're going to talk about Agile Project Management Methodology as an enabler of innovation. So essentially, I've got a background in project management, of course, certified project management, PMP. I've done my DESM and also been teaching Agile project management for the last 10 years. I've got quite a broad experience in terms of project management, enterprise architect, have also been part of the business development team, strategizing and implementing a successful approach to revitalize underperforming product lines and create profit-generating enterprise. And of course, I'm a trainer, like I mentioned, so and I've got quite a bit of certification, so as well as the NLP, the neuro-linguistic programming, which is about coaching people and helping them to achieve their topmost potentials. So without much ado, so I'll get started with the presentation for Agile Project Management Methodology as an enabler of innovation. Well, essentially, look forward to the intervention to be as interactive as possible. So let me get started and ask you just a few words, just one or two words, so if you can type it in the chat. So in your opinion, so what characterized the trend in 2022? So what you see is happening. Of course, I believe there would be COVID, but I'm referring more in terms of the trend that you see in terms of new project, new product, project management. So what could you see out there? So share a little bit of your opinion. So that could be a very good starting point. So if you can just type in the chat. Yes, we are seeing changes, quite a bit change, hybrid way of working, quick delivery, yeah, we want everything fast. Multiple deliveries, competing requirements, I would say. All right, so let's keep going. Some more feedback. So why are we seeing these trends? So these shorter delivery time changes and things like that, why are we seeing that? What's happening? Yeah, life become expensive. I think that's everywhere across the world. Continuous changes in scope, true. CIP, quick end results are expected. Right, so essentially what we're saying, one lesson that has emerged, yeah, absolutely, uncertainty. One lesson that has emerged from the disruption of the past few years, because of COVID and, different ways of working and things like that, that there is no universal answer to overcoming disruption. In the midst of crisis, organization, they are turning to project professionals who are able to leverage talent and technology and reimagine the solution. So everyone is going to project managers. So you know what? There are new demand, new changes, new way of doing things. We need to build new product. So to who do they go? To project managers. And this poses quite a bit of challenge to project management. How do we cope with that world while a wave of technological disruption is transforming the country's economic potential? Well, to capitalize on the opportunity for growth, more and more organizations are turning to their project managers to manage complex processes, transformation, and to get product and services to market quickly. So that's where we stand. Everyone's going toward these project managers. So if you would like to we summarize a little bit of where we are. Is, sorry, there's something goes wrong there. Okay, excuse me. Yes. Sorry, I just had a trouble with my. So essentially, if we can summarize where we are, is we can summarize it as a VUCA. And that word has been coined not last year or year before. I think it's been there for like more than 10 years. If you would like to summarize a bit what's happening there, everyone is looking up, say, okay, what's happening? And, people in the industry have come up with that fantastic word, VUCA. Essentially, what we're saying is the quickly evolving environment. Everything is changing quite fast, and stakeholder demand patterns are evolving rapidly. Customer, partners, regulators, they have pressing needs. Investors are demanding growth. Competitors and collaborators demand action to accommodate fast priorities. So everything is in a constant, perpetual change. It's volatile, like someone mentioned. Of course, it's uncertain. Uncertain, it means that we don't know what the outcome would be. We are putting effort into something. So, for example, we're building a certain product, but we're not sure what's coming out. Would there be actually demand for these products? So there's uncertainty. The other point is complexity. Complexity, essentially, it refers to the multiple facets of one solution. It's not like you to reach your goal, you do point A, point B, and point C. But now it gets much more complicated than that. It's like going to point A, to point B, to point C, back to point B, again to point C, and then back to point F, something like that. So there's a multiple step. It's not like straightforward. So that's complexity, all right? And what's happening as well is ambiguity, lack of clarity. There's lots of what we call unknown of unknowns. So we're in a world of VUCA. There's so much changing. And on the other side, like you guys correctly mentioned, we are looking for result in that world. Everyone is demanding result, and there are changes happening there. So if you go to so like I mentioned, everyone's coming to the project managers and asking them to make things happen. And unfortunately, the way that project management has been set up is, we don't really recognize change. In the traditional way of doing projects, we have a scope, the famous golden triangle. We'll have scope, cost, and schedule. All the three variables at the start of a project, we fix them. At the start of a project, we have a fixed scope, fixed schedule, and fixed cost. Everything that change is called a change request. And essentially how we've been doing project is we do the concept, we do the specification. At times we get to sign off on the specification. Then we start doing the implementation or prototype. Eventually, when that's done, we put that for testing and it's accepted, and we put it to use. So we kind of not really can go that at the point of implementation, if the needs of the customer has changed, says, okay, let's go back to the specification. Usually what we say, oh yeah, you know what, we need more money here. And we try to discourage the customers to do change. But the risk of that is if we persist and do whatever we have planned to do in the specification, is we risk of delivering something which is not of value. And as you may appreciate, is going through that waterfall model, I think many of you have recognized that, is, it takes time before we get something out for use, right? Because we need to do the concept. We spend quite a bit of time on specification. Typically, specification is about, we sit down, we discuss with the customers, we write everything on paper, we map everything out on diagrams and flows, we get them to vet, we sign off on that. At times, this may take as much time as the actual development. So in itself, doing the specification is not wrong, but the way we're doing it, really impact on the customer. Because just imagine, if you start a project in January and you tell the customer that the product will be ready, available to go to market in 18 months. Well, 18 months is a lot of time. The needs of customers will definitely change. So as project managers, we are irrelevant. So we'll push the customers into an area where they will try to do something on their best effort instead of, say, okay, I need someone which is really good at project management and try to help me develop and put out there on the market quality product. So this is kind of a crossroad where project management sees themselves back as early as the year 2000, 2001. And gradually over the years, the thought process has been changing. And until 2010, we haven't seen much traction. But in the last 5 years, things have been moving really, really fast. And especially in the last 2 years, we have pretty much put a big cross on this way of working, especially when it comes to a dynamic environment where things is perpetually changing, where we're looking for innovation. Because essentially when we do innovation, there's a lot of volatility that's associated with innovation. We just don't know how the innovative product will perform. And innovation is very complex. There's multiple steps, not straightforward, else everyone would have done it. And absolutely, it's ambiguous because no one has done it before. So bringing all these into picture, how do you think the project management should work? So it's quite a bit of a challenge. And fortunately, the answer that what we see is, we need something to turn that VUCA word into advantage, right? So first thing is, when we have volatility, so how do you think we're going to handle that? Is by creating a compelling vision. So essentially, we can't just lock the scope. This is too dynamic. But what we could do is look into a vision. That's what we do a roadmap eventually. We say, hopefully we're going to have a product which would allow the customer to communicate easily and intuitively with their peers, something like that. So we create a compelling vision. Or without dialing numbers, the phone should be able to read your expression and guess who needs to be called. So these are all the compelling vision. And this gives them a clear focus and help people to focus and react to the changes that may happen. Vision doesn't change as quickly as a scope. So the vision, so when you start a product, even if you would like to deliver the whole things over 1 year or more, the vision, you can expect it to be pretty much unchanged. So we need to look into the picture by looking at the bigger picture. So what would be the vision? And the second thing is uncertainty, where you don't know whatever you're doing is what would be the end result. Whatever effort you put in, you're not sure of the output. So one of the interesting way of handling that is to delay decision making instead of like in the old world where you would be doing a specification very early on and then start implementation. So what you would do is you would try to delay that specification. To some extent, you could say, no, before I just start doing the development, I do the specification. So by delaying it, we reduce the uncertainty, because when we get nearer to a deadline or to an ultimate date, that's where we have more visibility. But when we try to do things early on, there is lots of uncertainty and risk. As it gets closer, more you gather more information, and it's much more realistic to make educated decision. The third point is about complexity. How do you manage complexity? One of the ways is, you need people from different point of views to come in, because they are a complex situation is a situation that's got multiple steps. So it's complicated. So I won't say complicated, it's complex. It's complex in terms of there is many steps. One way of to managing this complexity is to bring in more people. So when you have many people looking at the same problem from a different point of view, then the problem becomes crystal clear. That's how you manage complexity. So you've got many people that come together and promote the teamwork. This helps you resolve complex problems. And the last thing is about ambiguity. When there's lots of uncertainty, you should be able to be agile, to stay adaptable. At times you have developed something, you should be able to scrap it. So the approach to it is not to develop the whole thing and then you have to scrap the whole thing. The idea is, when you say agility, is you do it by building blocks, so that if you have to scrap, you scrap one block, you don't scrap the whole thing. Kind of manage costs and expectations. So by looking at how we're going to turn VUCA into our advantage, in the summary, we're saying that we're going to have a vision, we're going to delay decision making to the last moment, we're going to bring in people from different perspectives, we're going to build it a small piece at a time so that we don't waste our time when we have to adapt for changes. This as background, it fits in very well with what people have started back in 2001, which we call the Scrum methodology, under the umbrella of Agile methodologies. So we see that the Agile methodology fits in very well to handle these different situations. And if you have to come forward to build innovative product, we can see how well the Agile methodology can fit in. Now let's move a step closer and have a look at how the Agile methodology really help innovation happening. First thing, we have the clear goals or vision. We know the delivery. We have a vision. We have a roadmap. That's the multiple releases. So essentially, we deliver the lowest risk, highest value product first. This is the approach that we take in Agile methodology. The highest value, lowest risk, the fastest one, we deliver it first. It helps us, push something to the customer for feedback very quickly. That leads us to the third point. The fact that we mentioned there is lots of ambiguity. We don't know what's really out there. By having retrospective reviews and feedback, when we deliver something, we can analyze it from a critical eye point of view, where we can really comment the way that we've been working, how we look at the product. We learn by doing. We inspect and adapt. This is what the values project managers is bringing in through Agile Project Management. The fourth point is we keep the detailed plan for the last minute when things get more predictable. Yes, we have the roadmap, we have planned releases, and then we have sprints. And before each sprint, we have what we call sprint planning. We'll look in a moment how the detailed plan is delayed to the last minute. We don't do it beforehand. At the start, we have some big ideas, many big ideas. We prioritize these big ideas. And the top priority ideas, when we start working on it, then we explode it. Then we go into the details. What are the less priority one? We'll do it afterwards when we complete the topmost priority project or piece of functionality first. Then we'll move to the second one. And the last one is, in Agile Project Management, we accept change will happen. We inspect and adapt. Whatever we have seen, we say, okay, we agree there will be changes and we'll make the changes happening. So it's not like in the world where we say, oh, you know what, we have signed this specification. We can't change anything. This is a change request, blah, blah, blah. No, over here, we welcome change. And we'll walk through you how we do that. So a quick glimpse at the overall project management, agile project management life cycle. So before I move further, so I would like to hear some questions from you guys or clarification, whatever you didn't catch properly. So you can put your question in the chat, or you can just speak up. So what's the main difference between Agile and other methodologies? Okay, we'll address that in a moment. Okay, so let's step, I think this gives me a very good starting point. So the big difference between Agile and the other methodologies is here what you see is the overall Agile project management. So if you bear with me, I'll walk you through the difference. So the main difference is, here, all the detailed thinking, detailed planning are done upfront. And once we move from one step to the other, we kind of make it very tough to go back and think about it. Whereas when we look at the Agile project management, we have something what we call, everything starts with a product backlog, where we have the input from customers, team managers, all the different stakeholders. Everything comes to the product order. The product order is kind of the old days, business analysis. But in this world of Agile project management, the product owner actually and truly owned the product. So he made decision about the product. Whereas in the old world, we didn't have that. We had business analysis. They were doing the nitty-gritty detail. They were going into the analysis of the problem or of the solution. But everything else that had to be agreed had to go back to the stakeholders or to the customer. Whereas here, we have someone called the product owner. He truly embodied the one person to make product decisions. So, of course, in the background, he will go and talk to the customer, to the marketing person, to the research person. So it's not him as such that got all the knowledge, but he's got a network of people. Plus, he will also have business analysts working for him to do the details. So the big difference here with the other methodology is we have all these big ideas. This is what we call the product backlog. We have different, what we call epic, some big stories or big feature point. So these features are being prioritized with the help of the customers. So based on the conversation with the customer, what's more priority, what should we deliver fast, what will bring the highest value. So this one goes on the top. And then each time we take one big item, we explode it. We say, this one we need to work. We kind of time box, okay. We say, okay, the sprint is 2 weeks, we'll time box it. At that point, we'll start doing the detailed analysis. So you might just notice very well, we're doing analysis of only the one part, not of the whole product, the whole project. Just like in the old world, what we used to do is we do it for the whole product. But here, we look only at that piece, which is really important, which means we'll speed up the time to go to market. Once we complete that piece, it goes into our machine there. And we have the finished product. We don't need to do the whole thing. So in the meantime, customer will see part of the finished product, which they can use. They can start familiarizing with the product, and then we'll have more features coming in anyway. So basically, we have the sprint planning. Then we have the team working on the product, which is the actual development, which we say it's time bound, 1 to 4 weeks. And then every day we have some kind of ceremonies, what we call the stand-up meetings, And at the end of the sprint, we have sprint reviews, we have retrospective where we discuss everything inside the team, and then we have the finished product. This is a very simplistic view of Agile project management, just to tell you how it enables innovation to happen, by embracing changes. Because when the team is working on the first item, the second item can change. Or when we do the product review, we can see changes that has happened, and we can factor into the next iteration, to the next sprint. So it enables innovation, people to think, to experience things, and to inspect and adapt. So it's very conversant with a moving world where there's lots of uncertainty. No one is being forced to make decisions too early on. You can delay strategic decision for later on. So this is pretty much a framework that enables you to do innovation, right? So tell me more. So what could you appreciate? You have any question, any clarification? Are you all good? Okay, great. So basically, there are 3 roles in project management and Agile project management. So talking to you guys here, I understand you're project managers or would like to see yourself in that role of Agile project management. So just 3 top roles that are really in demand in terms of Agile project management. The first one is Scrum Master. So the Scrum Master, he is the big guy here that educate the team to do Scrum. They educate the team, teach the team, protect the teams, remove blockers, and at times coach, facilitate the team for the actual project to happen. Having said that, Scrum Master is very different to the traditional project manager. Scrum Master can also be part of the team. It could be a developer, it could be an architect, could be a tester. So Scrum Master is not a standalone role as we see as project manager. So he's part of the team, the Scrum Master. Essentially, he protects the team from interference. So if there's any problem, anything's blocked, he will take it to the product owner or to whoever needs to be escalated. So he's the guru of the methodology, right? The second role that we have, that's a very important person, that's the product owner. He's the guy that helps work with the stakeholders to define the vision. He manages the backlog, all the features that comes in, prioritize it, oversees the development stages, so what's being delivered. When we say development stages, not the actual detail of working, but it's more about the deliverables. It anticipates the customer needs, like the primary liaison. So if there is anything happening, so he'll be the go-to person to talk to the customer. He will evaluate the product. He may decide to say, okay, guys, stop the sprint. The priority has changed. So he's kind of the true owner of the product. So other words is product owner. Product owner is a very interesting role, and to be honest, there's not there's not that many product owners out there. So there's a big demand, and as you would assume, there's good money as well for the product owner. So this is a very good role to embrace, product ownership. And then we have for the more mature Agile project manager or Agile Scrum Master or product owner, this needs more maturity for that to happen. This is the Agile team coach. Essentially, he will be at a C level. He will be looking at the overall picture and help deploy the Agile methodology. He will be the forward-thinking person, will help transform the business. Hear all what the Agile coach will be doing. This is usually, you can't be an entry-level person to do that. You should have been in Agile for 3 to 5 years, where you really understand the multiple facets of the business and, of course, of Agile methodology to look forward to be an Agile coach. In that sense, to conclude, we have PMI, Project Management Institute, got a new stream of certification called Discipline Agile. So there's Discipline Agile Scrum Master and Discipline Agile Senior Scrum Master. These essentially are the very growing in reputation certification that really brings everything into picture to really push you forward to be successful in the world of Agile project management. So on that, I'll end my presentation. I'll hear out any Q&A from you. So you may speak if you are not muted, or you can put your question. Are you all good? All right, great, thank you very much. Okay, that's a good question. The difference between Agile Coach and Scrum Master. Well, essentially the Scrum Master, he finds himself more inside the project team, whereas the Agile Coach takes a more holistic view. He looks at the organization level to make sure that, you know, we have the proper mindset in place, we have the right influences and people or the buy-in, because you can't just introduce Agile project management like that. There's the umbrella of the organization that needs to adapt. It's not just software development, but it should be, you know, operation, finance, procurement, you name it. So all the organization need to be agile, not just that small piece of software development. So the Agile coach take care of that. He also work with the different people in the organization, mentor them, making facilitation, things like that. So he works more at a strategic level to make sure that Agile project management really happen. You know, because if the organization as a whole doesn't go to be agile, then Agile is not going to be successful. Great. Question, can you say something about a hybrid organization which waterfall, Agile are working next to? Yes, this is a very interesting question. That's where we are at today with a very hybrid way of working. And if you look at the discipline Agile, it says you start wherever you are. You know, if you're doing waterfall, you start with waterfall and then you evolve it. So there are some roadmap how you evolve from being a waterfall to be Agile. But the thing is, having the hybrid approach, we need to understand from a holistic point of view, where do we bring that agility? Do we lock in early on at the specification level? You know, this could be quite tricky. Well, you know, at sorry, my apology. I think the session just expired. So, all right. So yeah, we were talking about. Okay, fantastic. Everyone's here. So essentially, we can bring in some kind of agility where we deliver bits and pieces, where the customer doesn't need to wait for the whole thing to be ready in view to start testing it to the market. So though the specification has been locked, but in terms of delivery, you can make it much easier. And to some extent, you can see if the market is not responding. You know, you could be in such a way that you don't waste the whole product. You say, okay, this product is no longer relevant. You can stop it halfway through instead of waiting it to go the full length and then stop it. So this is pretty much how you usually bring in some agility in terms of delivery. But over here, the specification may be different. There are various organizations, but this is the most common way of seeing that hybrid approach of Agile and Waterfall. Yeah, can take more question about decision making in a few words. How do we perform it in Agile? Well, essentially, the decision happens at multiple levels. So let's see. So we have some decision that happens here when we do the priority. We decide on the product backlog, and then we prioritize it. So there are decision points that happens. And then there are more internal decision points that happens when we do the sprint planning. This is more limited to the team, where they decide what to do. And the other decision point that usually happen is when we do the sprint review and the retrospective. We inspect and adapt. So we had to make decision. How important is the domain knowledge for Scrum Master? I think this is very minimal. Scrum Master doesn't need to have a lot of domain knowledge, but the product owner needs a lot of product knowledge. He should be pretty much an expert in that domain. So that's how it kind of delimited. In the old world, when you're a project manager, you had to have a substantial amount of domain knowledge to run the project. But nowadays, these are taken care by the product owner and his team. Of course, the product owner is one person, but he's got a team under him. So that team takes care of that. And of course, the more domain knowledge the team have, the Scrum Master and the other guys, so the better it is. And that's a bit the role of the product owner as well, to teach a little bit of the domain knowledge, transfer of knowledge to the team. And of course, we have the Agile coach that brings in that knowledge to the Scrum Master and the team. Yep. Could take more question. So in case a change request comes in, the product owner updating the backlog and the priority. Yes, so essentially there are 2 points in time when we have change requests. So one is probably, one is in progress, so there's a new knowledge that comes in here on the customer. So there are changes that happen. So the changes could be the piece of work that the team is not working, or it could be also on a piece that the team is already working. So if the team is already working on something, it gets a little bit more tricky. In that case, we can introduce, well, there's an impact analysis first that's done. And if the change needs to happen, then, there's a discussion that happens. Do we take something out and then we bring in the additional piece? Because during a sprint, we are not supposed to be changing anything. We locked it. And the sprint is only 1 to 4 weeks long. So we could kind of delay, manage that expectation when change request comes. And the other way we see change requests is when you have the retrospective or the sprint review. These changes are taken into the next sprint. So essentially, changes are happening in the next sprint, but when it gets tricky for change is when the sprint is underway. This is, I would confess, this is very rare, but it can happen. When it happens, there is a trade-off that happens. So essentially, we may take out certain feature to add some other features. So this is pretty much how we manage change control or changes. Other questions? All right. So we can take a last question. If there is nothing, we'll call it a night. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Okay. Concept of zero sprint. Will it check for readiness of agile team for actual sprint? Well, essentially, we have the zero sprint basically to put the team together, to have the dynamics in place, to fine-tune our estimation capability. That's how we have a zero sprint, just to put the machine together, if you would like. That's the zero sprint. How everything lumped together. Are we doing the right estimate? Do we have the right person? So this is pretty much the zero sprint. Concept of zero sprint, will it check for, yeah. So that's right. What is the possibility of Scrum applicability to mechanical domain? That's a good question. Is it applicable to mechanical domain? Well, if you can break the deliverable into bits and pieces, that would be great. Like they've done in China during the COVID, you know, they were building the hospital, but the whole hospital may take a few years to deliver. But what they did is they delivered blocks by blocks in the hospital. So yes, this can be applied. If you can break down your deliverable to bits and pieces, so at times you may look at you know, pieces that are really critical, you deliver that, and then you plug it into some existing piece of machinery to see if it works. Essentially, why you should apply Agile Project Management Methodology is to decrease risk, to have speed up time to market, and essentially to give a feel to the customer what the product eventually will look like. So if you have these combination of reason to do things, then yes, Agile Project Management. But if you are in a construction world where everything is very predictable and it's a tender from the government, you can't change anything, then man, don't make your life more complicated. Just use waterfall. It fits very well. Just use it. But if you would like to do innovation, things uncertain and things like that, then Agile Project Management is the way to go. All right, great. Thank you very much. It was very interesting presentation, a very interesting answer. Thank you very much. Hope to see you soon in one of the courses of ProThought. Take care.